Swami, Srila Prabhupada ki Jai, Shrimadbhagavatam ki Jai, their most merciful Lordship Shri Shri Radhakunja Bihari ki Jai, Shri Jagannath Shri Baladev Mai Subhadra ki Jai, Mataji Shri Balagopal ki Jai, Nitai ki Jai, Nitai Go Premanand Hari Bol. All glories to the assembled Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled Hare Krishna. All glories to the Lord Spirit of Shri Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Narayanam Namaskritya.
Narayanam Namaskritya.
Naram Chaiva Narottamam.
Naram Chaiva Narottamam.
Devim Saraswatim Vyasam.
Devim Saraswatim Vyasam.
Tato Jayamudire.
Tato Jayamudire.
Nastaprayeshu Bhadreshu.
Nastaprayeshu Bhadreshu.
Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya.
Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya.
Bhagavati Uttama Shloke.
Bhagavate Uttama Shloke.
Bhaktir Bhagavati Naistaki.
Bhaktir Bhagavati Naistaki.
Reading from Shrimadbhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 5, Text 8. Is that correct?
7.
Oh, 7. Well, didn't someone give class yesterday? Nobody gave class yesterday?
Yesterday was 6.
Okay, text 7. Twam Paryatan
Varyatan
Arka
Naka
Eva Trilokim
Triloki
Tvam Paryatan Arka Eva Trilokim
Tvam Paryatan Narka Iva Trilokim
Antas
Antas
Charo Vayor
Vayu
Ivatma
Ivatma
Shakshi
Shachi
Antas Charo Vayor Ivatma Shakshi
Antas Charo Vayu Ivatma Sachi
Paravare
Paravare
Brahmani Dharmato Vratai
Rate
Paravare Brahmani Dharmato Vratai
Paravare Brahmani Dharmato Rate
Snatasya
Snatasya
Me Nunyam Yunam Alam Vichaksya Sorry, that's Vichaksva Snatasya me Nunam Alam Vichaksya
Snatasya me Nyunamalam Vichachva
Tvam Paryatan Arka Eva Trilokim
Tvam Paryatan Narka Eva Trilokim
Antascharo Vayurivatma Shakshi
Tasharo Vayurivatma Sachi
Paravare Brahmani Dharmato Vratai
Paravare Brahmani Dharmato Vrate
Snatasya me Munyam Alam Vichaksya
Snatasya me Nyunamalam Vichachva
Vichaksya Tvam Paryatan Arka Eva Trilokim
Tvam Paryatan Narka Eva Trilokim
Antascharo Vayurivatma Shakshi
Antascharo Vayurivatma Sachi
Paravare Brahmani Dharmato Vratai
Paravare Brahmani Dharmato Vrate
Snatasya me Nyunam Alam Vichaksva
Snatasya me Nyunamalam Vichachva Tvam Paryatan Narka Eva Trilokim
Tvam Paryatamarka Eva Trilokim
Antascharo Vayurivatma Sachi
Antascharo Vayurivatma Shakshi
Paravare Brahmani Dharmato Vrate
Pravare Brahmani Dharmato Vratai
Snatasya me Nyunamalam Vichachva
Snatasya me Nyunam Alam Vichaksva Tvam Your goodness Paryatan Traveling Arka the sun Eva like Trilokim the three worlds Antachara can penetrate into everyone's heart Vayueva as good as the all-pervading air
as good as the all-pervading air
Atma self-realized Shakshi witness Paravare in the matter of cause and effect Brahmani in the absolute Dharmata under disciplinary regulations Ratai in vow Snatasya having been absorbed in me having been absorbed in then mine Yunam deficiency Alam clearly Vichaksva search out Tvam Paryatan Arka Eva Trilokim Antascharo Vayurivatma Shakshi Paravare Brahmani Dharmato Vratai Snatasya me Nyunam Alam Vichaksva Translation and purport by His Divine Grace of I, Charananda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Like the sun, your goodness can travel everywhere in the three worlds. And like the air, you can penetrate the internal region of everyone. As such, you are as good as the all-pervasive Supersoul. Please, therefore, find out the deficiency in me, despite my being absorbed in transcendence, under disciplinary regulations and vows. Please repeat. Like the sun, your goodness can travel everywhere in the three worlds. And like the air, you can penetrate the internal region of everyone. As such, you are as good as the all-pervasive Supersoul. Please, therefore, find out the deficiency in me. Despite my being absorbed in transcendence, under disciplinary regulation and vows. Purport by His Divine Grace, Abhaya Charanam Bhaktivedanta Swami Sri Prabhupada. I'm going to read it one more time. Like the sun, your goodness can travel everywhere in the three worlds. And like the air, you can penetrate the internal region of everyone. As such, you are as good as the all-pervasive Supersoul. Please, therefore, find out the deficiency in me, despite my being absorbed in transcendence under disciplinary regulation and vows. Transcendental realization, pious activities, worshiping the deities, charity, mercifulness, non-violence, and studying the scriptures under strict disciplinary regulations are always helpful. Jai. Om Jnana Tamarandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshusum Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Now this is still Veda Vyasa. Yes.
Okay, this is Srila Vyasa speaking to Narada.
This was just what I was going to just
Okay.
See, Sri Vyasadeva said 2 paragraphs ago, and this is a continuation of what he is saying. Why it might be a question in your mind is because he himself is accrediting Narada Muni with the abilities that we accredit only God to having, isn't it? Sri Vyasadeva is saying to Narada Muni, you can travel everywhere in the 3 worlds. This is an ability Narada Muni has because of the pureness of his heart. So we were just talking. Did I give class yesterday or was it? Yeah, I did give class. Okay. So we were talking about how long-lived souls, and there are many in this universe. One of which we had said yesterday, he had been given by Krishna 10 million years as a lifespan, but which is as well a very short time compared to Markandeya Rishi, who had been given 3 days of Lord Brahma to live. These devotees, they have in their hearts to engage in the Dharma of the age and to give the knowledge of the Dharma to other souls with pure hearts. They have no other purpose in coming here. You don't see Narada Muni coming here to establish some kingdom for himself or to want to rule on the planet, but he comes to give knowledge. And these souls that have fulfilled Krishna's expectation of them to come to a level of consciousness where they can give this in pure form. They give Shrimadbhagavatam, they give Krishna in pure form, so that he grants them the ability to go wherever you want to go. Wherever you want to go in this universe, the next place you want to go to, then you can go there. And he says, this is Vyasadeva saying to Narada Muni, like the air, you can penetrate the internal region of everyone. This is an ability he is acknowledging that Narada Muni has received from Krishna. So this is one of the cities also. You can, by entering into the body of another human being, you can give them suggestions. You can give them thoughts. You can introduce yourself. I had a friend who had that experience, like an out-of-body experience like that. But it is a siddhi that is given by Krishna for those whose hearts are pure, who want to use their abilities simply to give knowledge to others. As such, you are as good as the all-pervasive Supersoul. Now this is actually Vedavyas, who is himself the same personality, Krishna, who is also expanding himself as Supersoul into every form of life. You can see in Srila Prabhupada's own life now, in every temple there's a murti form. In every temple that Srila Prabhupada has established, there's a murti form of Srila Prabhupada, which devotees are all offering respect to. So how many? We have more than 400 temples now around the world. In a sense, this is Srila Prabhupada's ability to expand himself. And as Chaitanya Guru, he expands himself also into the heart of his devotees. So this is an ability, again, this is a siddhi that is granted. And amongst those that have that, it's like considered to be a normal thing.
Okay.
Please, therefore, so now, Krishna, in this form of Vedavyas, is asking someone who is taking the position of being his spiritual master. So we see in this also the humility of Krishna. Krishna is the source of all these things. And yet he's putting himself in the position to ask the question of someone else. Who in effect he's saying, this person is more elevated than I am. This person knows more than I do. So that's Krishna. Krishna elevates his devotees, and he takes pleasure in seeing his devotees elevated by other devotees as well. And this is how society as well gets lifted. The consciousness of society gets lifted as we lift one another up. So when a devotee sees another devotee, the understanding I received when I first came to Krishna consciousness was they immediately offer respects to each other. But they're not offering that respect to the personalities that they may see in the physical body. They are offering respect to the fact that the Supreme Person himself is personally sharing this body with the person I am greeting. And so if I offer respect to that person who is sharing this body, the Supreme Person who is sharing this body with you, I am going to develop with you a relationship with you that will be incomparable. If I meet you as a business person and say, oh, can you do this for me, or can I do this for you, and will you pay me? It's different. It's different. Devotees see each other on a different level than other people see us in the world. Then we see other people from the world, although we can also see other people the same way. In fact, we can see every form of life the same way. Not that we would worship them, because their consciousness is not yet developed. But for one is Srila Prabhupada. This form of worship that we take part in goes directly to Krishna. That is the purity of Srila Prabhupada, giving and using his life for the purpose of spreading Krishna consciousness. So that's how there's a difference between someone worshiping someone like Krishna explains in the Bhagavad Gita. They worship the forefathers. We are worshiping, in effect, Srila Prabhupada is a forefather. But Srila Prabhupada has laid down the means for us to go where he's going. And he's not going to a planet within his universe. But so similarly, the same principle applies to those who are following forefathers of other paths. They will go to those planets only. This is why I'm objecting to our overuse of birthdays. Unless you're a pure devotee, you can't take your disciple back to Godhead. If you can't go yourself, how are you going to bring somebody with you if you can't get there yourself? So we got to be qualified to be worshipped. Somebody says they're making a cake for us. For me, if I'm not a pure devotee, you're making a cake for me. I'm not a pure devotee means I'm not offering it to Krishna. But still, I'm not a pure devotee. And I'm not at a place to be worshipped yet because I can't even keep my own room clean. But I get arrogant, I get puffed up. I'm still troubled by the false ego. And this keeps us from the purity, which Srila Prabhupada says is the force. It is the force of the purity that will spread Krishna consciousness. So if we have any other desires, these abilities that are considered the norm, these other inhibitions we have, because our attachments to this world are inhibitions. They are limitations that we are attracted to that keeps us from having the fullness or the manifestation of what we are as souls, incomplete. So we could read other people's minds also. This is a city. But it is a natural, just like the plants have the ability to do that. They are sensitive to the thoughts of human beings. I shared this before in the class. And so we can see that this is all of these cities are abilities that the soul has in its natural state. Because just like reading minds is a form of communication that is naturally engaged in the spiritual world. Just like manifesting here, as we were preaching years ago, and understanding by Srila Prabhupada's teachings that demigods want to take residence on this planet because the short span of life and because of the ease of the process being given, when the temptations on this planet, as compared to what they're living in their celestial pleasurable palaces, this dwelling place is very humble and, not so much to get attached to. So, that having been spoken of 50 years ago, and I know Srila Prabhupada didn't start that. This was being spoken of in Lord Chaitanya's time, because it is recorded that he had also, just the same way Krishna had, they had visitors watching in the sky. These these machines. They were described as machines. Shrimadbhagavatam told me, oh, they were birds, they were flying animals. Well, yeah. But we also have what is called Vimana Shastra. Vimana Shastra are descriptions of flying machines and how to create them. Those superior forms of energy that were used by previous civilizations far advanced, and some of which are still being carried over into the civilizations that are living in the inner earth, the middle earth, hold on by them having records even of such a yuga. So that all these sciences, Krishna hasn't let them to be destroyed, even though on the outer surface it would seem that for the most part the connection man has to God from the beginning is very limited amounts of writings. And those that are even accredited with giving those accounts, like the Bible, give us a glimpse, a little idea about the connection. And so that account doesn't give instructions to him having received the means of being able to get back. Does it say Adam was given by God a way to get back to the Garden of Eden, which is what is being described in the Bible as the paradise-like place, like a heavenly place. But it's on the inside of this planet. And the sun is always the same distance away from the people on the inner surface of the planet. Just the same way that this universe has an inner surface, this planet has an inner surface. The planets are like little universes. And Bhagavatam explains how they float. They float by the hot gases inside of them. And what is recorded by one such researcher who has been inside of there is that there is an internal sun. So before this research was even done, so-called modern science has already concluded that there was a molten mass in the internal center of the Earth, which there is about 600 miles in diameter. The living entities on the internal surface of the Earth, there's 11 races in there, and 7 of them are giants. And from time to time, some of them are sent out to the outer surface. They have knowledge of the outer surface. And our connection with them would be realized if mankind was not so good at killing each other off. You know, with these wars that go on, when they kill off an entire civilization of people, an whole culture of people, they destroy with them the history those people carry with them in their hearts. Because this is how man's original connection to Krishna, to God, was known by the civilizations, was by word of mouth. And stories, pastimes of God with man were passed down from generation to generation to generation. And Bhagavatam is glorified by its purity, by the fact that it has been preserved word for word, which leads us to appreciation for the way Srila Prabhupada has presented it. What other book do you separate into paragraphs and have more commentary in the paragraph than the book itself has? Because what was common knowledge in such a yuga amongst those to whom Bhagavatam was given, that common knowledge to the later generations had to be explained because the abilities were lost, just like we're reading about Narad Muni's ability. So we don't see in our own lives the abilities that these greatly exalted souls have. But when we develop in our hearts the desire to want to give these teachings and these truths to others, naturally the abilities will develop for Krishna to have his way through us. If you go to the pangs of hell, if you go to the lowest depths of hell, to preach and be completely free from any effects of the hellish circumstances there. Krishna holds the keys to every planet in the universe. And to those that are ruled by those who are surrendered to him, then they are heavenly planets. But to get to those levels, then it is consciousness that the souls come to that enable them to reach those levels of the planetary systems. And so they're more able to experience as well by the purity of their hearts. And like we were saying, some of them, because of the purity of their hearts, are granted a lifespan we would consider to be, practically speaking, eternal within the universe. They can stay here as long from the beginning to the end, Narad Muni. I don't know how long he's going to choose, but already he was there when Lord Brahma, he was born from Brahma's body. How old does that make him? 175 trillion years old, or so, give or take a few trillion. We're going to make him a birthday cake with candles on it. And see, they've been with Lord Shiva. He's been with Lord Shiva as a brother, Lord Shiva.
Brothers.
Yeah.
Wow.
Out of the same body, Brahma.
Okay.
Out of the same body of Brahma, right?
Yeah. Where Shiva came from to see it.
It makes them brothers, doesn't it?
Yeah, brothers.
So you see, the soul, see, and Narad Muni's Atma, he's a Jiva. He's not Tulsi Maharani. We're just meditating this morning. She is Vishnu Tattva. Think about that. We handle her like a plant, and think of her as a plant. She's just a plant. No, she is Vishnu Tattva. That's how she has so much power to be able to, just by circumambulating her, the form she's appearing in, to be cleansed of any sinful activity we've engaged in thousands of lifetimes. This concept does not even exist in most Christians' minds. They're worried about being cleansed of the sins just in this life, and what to speak, just the ones they committed yesterday. Right? And it's being revealed to us how purifying our association with a pure form of Krishna's own self, Shrimati Radharani. Her love expands in completeness, manifesting as Tulsi Maharani. That's who Tulsi Maharani is. She's an expansion of Krishna's love, of Shrimati Radharani's love, which comes from Krishna, for Krishna. Shrimati Radharani's love for Krishna is the love we need to develop for Krishna. Christians see love coming from God that we have to find, right? But we want to find favor in Shrimadbhagavatam to be allowed to engage in her energy. It is her energy. She is love. And just like I said before, love is always manifest with a receiver and a giver. And so their reciprocation is constantly increasing. This is why, and too, the gopis have this experience with Krishna as well, which is why they lead to curse the fact that they have to blink. You know, to breathe.
You gotta say that in any context.
They curse the fact that they have to blink their eyes because they are so attracted to the form of Krishna. And Srimati Radharani and Krishna, this is why when I carry Srimati Radharani and Krishna together, put them on the altar, I let them look at each other. Because their attraction for each other is constantly increasing. And the beauty they see in each other is constantly increasing. But our material minds have no means of being able to conceive of that. The only way we can get realization of that is if Krishna, through Srimati Radharani, she gives us the privilege of being able to see. Because these senses actually are feminine, mystic nature as to the superiority of the Supreme Krishna himself. He is the only male there is. And our use of the senses is a female act, so to speak. Our use of it to enjoy ourselves. And so, and this has put us into this position in the material world, subject to the lower energies' control of us, which is what we give ourselves to when we try to find pleasure somewhere else besides Krishna.
Okay.
So we submit ourselves to the inferior power to be predominated by and controlled by as a slave to our senses, the senses of our body. The desire to see, the desire to hear, the desire to taste, the desire to feel these things. It's all false ego. It is not until the false ego enters into the pradhan, as it's called, which is like a glob of a lifeless blob, until Krishna passes his glance upon it. And with that glance, his ego, then by the glance into this glob, manifests as a false ego. It's manifesting into the pradhan, which is non-living substance. By his glance, then, the living entities that enter into that, they enter into that by the consciousness of false ego. And with that, then the senses are created for them to be able to experience that. This is described in the third canto. And so, see, this reveals to us science, who is trying to figure out how the body works, how the body came into being, and all this, is in plain English for us to see and realize and understand. In ancient, again, these teachings are as old as the planet itself. Even before this planet, no, way before, because the sun came before. Krishna says he gave these teachings to Vivaswan, the sun god. That was before the earth even came into existence. So these truths have been in knowledge at the foundation of, before the world even came, this planet even came into existence. And we're being given access to it. What a privilege, isn't it? Think about that. Krishna, God himself, all-powerful, has found it within his unlimited resources to find us, each of us, dear enough to give us this knowledge and connection to this knowledge, and to be able then to give it to everybody. And now, he, the ability in us, will complete that work. We can't do. I can't give myself the ability to do anything, but Krishna is that ability, and in a super soul, superior to us, knowing perfectly well everything about the body, how it functions, how to make it function for 1,000,000 years. He did that to souls who took place and took birth, manifested on this planet, ate the same kind of foodstuffs from the same mother, Earth, Narad Muni, all these Markandeya Rishi, all these great sages of times past being put into a similar situation as we have been put into with a so-called mortal body. And yet, by association with Krishna, had that very mortal body transformed. By the consciousness of the Supreme Person sharing the body, giving the person, this is the power of Krishna, giving you the choice when you want to go. Not forced by karma because you've been involved in the karma. No, you're removed from the karma. Now, you're engaged in Krishna's energy now. Now, Krishna's going to give you abilities you didn't know you had. As super soul. So, some of these abilities in each verse, isn't it? Like the other verse we're reading about, the fact that Brahma is described as being self-born. What in the world, self-born? And then to create a universe out of his body. And he's a jiva soul. He's a jiva soul. See what the soul is capable of. We have no idea. I can't remember being, it is said that most of us have been Brahmas before. We fell down from the highest place. Probably before we got into this universe, we were Brahmas. Because there's so many billions and trillions of universes. Of course, if foreheads are amongst the smallest amongst the Brahmas, we can conclude as well that this is one of the smallest universes we're dwelling in. So imagine, if we're being given knowledge to the extent we're being given about this universe, and it being the smallest, imagine what knowledge is being given to those. And Krishna is visiting every universe. How unlimited God is. Can we figure it out with our minds? This is not common sense or common knowledge. This is the most confidential. And when Krishna says that in the Bhagavad Gita, then you go into Bhagavatam, you find there's even more confidential. That relationship he's having with the gopis is of such confidential nature that it can only be revealed by Krishna himself, who, by establishing this process, is giving us the opportunity to dance with him every morning. That's what this Mangalarti did, dancing with Krishna. That's what this chanting is, singing and dancing. And so Krishna wants us to know the bliss of the soul and goes to great lengths with all his devotees to make it possible for each and every one of us that now are coming finally after millions of years. How long have we been in this place? If we got into the universe, think about it. We came into here by the mouth of Brahma, by the by the mouth of Krishna into the body of Brahma. How long we've been in the universe? How old the universe is? When Krishna frees us from this place, he says it's going to be forever. So we hadn't been there yet in that state of consciousness. So it's a state of consciousness we're going to come to, that it will be, Vaikuntha will be the norm for us. And with that is the abilities of those who dwell in Vaikuntha. They go from planet to planet to planet to planet, visiting Krishna only. And on each and every various planet in the Vaikunthas, which each one are as big as our universes are, there is a different form of Krishna ruling that Vaikuntha planet, each of which gives complete satisfaction to every one of his subjects on that planet for them to want to live there with him eternally. Yet they have the ability to go to any other one they want to. That's freedom. See, and this can be in our minds, realizing this is what our future is going to be. This is where we're going. And we can hardly conceive of a little drop as we talk about it, for a few moments here in class. But that's going to be the norm. You want to go to Vaikuntha and see Shrimadbhagavatam. You want to see Sadhuja. He has a mendicant pot in one hand, he has a flute in another hand. And you can see Srila Prabhupada's authorized description of Sadhuja right here in this temple. We have access even right here, and we don't take advantage. We have the use of a building that has rooms in it that could be used to reveal to the general populace that comes here so many different forms of Krishna. Could have one room dedicated to Sadhuja, one room dedicated to Lord Shiva, one room dedicated to Narada Muni, one room dedicated to Markandeya Rishi, all these. And people could come and see and become self-realized from these teachings to know how superior this is. Because God himself, all these sciences that have been concocted by men, think about it, what they call science. Medicine, these things are all experiments. The form they're practicing right now are experimental forms that some man with senses subject to make mistakes has started, right? And he passed it on from one generation to another in the mimicry, right? Mimicking the actual way that Ayurveda was passed down by word of mouth by Krishna, who knows everything. He knows everything about every blood vein in the body, everything about every, function every organ in the body has, and what foods will affect it in every single way there is for it to be affected. And he gives that pure, perfect science of Veda, truth, not experiments, but absolute truth that doesn't change. You read Ayurveda, and you get the reasoning that it gives you, and you give the advice to other people, and you see how much they benefit by it. I've given my mother, my family members, different things found from the Ayurveda, which, when presented properly by a person in the know, can give simple people like us the ability to realize how this body functions and how to make it function better. But with Krishna consciousness, sharing the body with the one, just think about it, when the one who started Ayurveda, who spoke Ayurveda into being, who spoke Bhagavatam into being, who spoke Bhagavad Gita into being, who was the one that Chaitanya Charitamrita is talking about. He's sharing this body with us. And And so that's what self-realization means. Being brought to the place we can know that, and then have that communication constant. Krishna, should I go here? Is there someone that you want me to talk to in there? That can be so close and so constant. He can tell us the name of the person before we walk in. And it's revealed in Bhagavatam. He does that. Does that to his devotees. Pure devotees. They don't go about doing that to try and be recognized as someone who's got some great power, though, with a false ego. That is the very reason to lose those abilities. If we want abilities such as that is, for the ability to give other people the freedom that people need from karma. Because karma is not merciful. Karma doesn't say, oh, you got a pretty face, so I won't let you suffer my result. No. Karma deals with everybody. Unless we're freed from its results by Krishna personally, which he's doing through this process of chanting Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, and 9 other processes, right, that also, each of which have the ability to remove us from what we would otherwise be involving ourselves with, which is the karmic reaction. So there's any activity we're going to do with this body is either going to create karma or it's going to be free from karma. If it's free from karma, then realize we've been brought to a place now, we've engaged in activities that have been inspired by, given direction by Krishna himself on the kinds of activities to engage in, these forms of worship, the way we cook for Krishna, the way we preach, the way we distribute literature, all these processes. The energy of these bodies that we use to do those activities is not accumulating karma, but Krishna's keeping record of it all. And it is building up within us, called punya, like punya. Punya is a little bit different. This is even transcendental to punya. Punya is like when you give a tithe to some good cause. You know, you help somebody across the street who's incapable of walking. These kinds of things are like punya. You give something up that you feel is yours, but you want to help somebody else with it. That's like punya, or some religious activity. But transcendence, that's what every single of these 9 processes, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smarnam, we know, is capable of delivering the soul by removing the soul from the acts of karmic reactions. Then we are engaged in the transcendent energy of Krishna, which gives the soul realization of itself, of the nature that it is. And thereby, knowing the nature of itself, it brings that consciousness to bliss, because that's what the self is made of. Everything's made of love. It comes from Krishna. Shrimadbhagavatam is coming Krishna's own pure love in human form. The only way love could be made known in its perfection is to be in the complete human form. And the only way for it to manifest was there to be 2. Right? Love is not in and of itself. It is that nature of going outward to all those that it comes in contact with. So similarly, Radha and Krishna reveal to us love in its purest state. And that is what, when the soul comes to realize this process is making available to us that kind of consciousness that Srimati Radharani has for Krishna. That's the kind of consciousness we want to develop, because along with that then enables us to give everyone else the connection. Every fighting wars outside, but here we are, having access to the greatest peace, the ultimate total power there is, because Lord Chaitanya says that Krishna invests 100% all of his spiritual energy in these holy names that we are chanting. So we, having access to that, are having access with our consciousness to an experience that other people in the world who are being put into circumstances very grievous, suffering. Some people are being burned right now. A house is being burned by an arsonist somewhere. Somebody's firing a gun and hitting people with it. It's crazy things going on in this world. While simultaneously, at the same time, every day, every moment, this access to the Supreme Person and the Supreme Power, the Supreme Love, the Supreme Joy, the Supreme Happiness that this connection to the Supreme Person makes is available to us. But through the day, we're going to find other places to look, as we do every day, until we become perfect. Krishna is so kind. Stay with us. He bears with us, tolerates. Still, we commit offenses, but he's barely tolerant. He's the most tolerant. It is he from whom all tolerance comes. And yet we see in religion so much intolerance of other religions, isn't it? It's like religion is the most intolerant of others than any other organization. Religions are more intolerant than anything else. Governments, but governments are warring and fighting against each other. But it's based on the religious beliefs that they have within each other. Governments, so the governments are being pushed also by their quote-unquote religious beliefs. It is moving into time for prasadam. Does anybody have any questions, any comments, any realizations? I have a habit of forgetting to repeat the question when people do ask a question, and then I go watch the video and I say, oh yeah, I told myself they're going to repeat the question, and I didn't do that. Does anybody have a question? Or everybody has every question answered that they're ever going to need to know about, right? But see, that reveals as well that we all know Super Soul is with us, so he gives us all the answers we can ever need to know. He's there always. Those who are, of course, more exalted and more purified than we are, then we have to seek the advice from him and association from him, and know that that association is coming from Krishna himself. That's why we offer respect, because then we get the association we need to deliver us from the suffering that karma would otherwise be developed by us.
Krishna is all pure.
Krishna is all pure. I'm going to repeat what you're saying.
So if Krishna creates anything, it is also pure.
Yeah.
So how Krishna creates material world is not pure.
Okay, the material world is not exactly what we would say created. The energy, the external energy that God, Krishna, is emanating is always there. But it takes transforming forms, it changes. Just like our body seems to be the same the last at least 10, 15 years, right? 10, 15, 20 years. But every cell in that body is changed into something different.
Yeah.
It's a miracle that's going on, actually. When you see what we are eating, this stuff, you leave it sit for 2-3 days, it forms a mush that nobody even wants to get close to, all right? And yet you put it in this body, and you can be actually lusty after it, by its appearance. Oh boy, now. And this is all mushy eggplant, just like the thing of the boy and the girl the boy was so attracted to the girl, her beauty, right? So she fasted about this to know whether this relationship was good or not. So for 3 days while she's fasting, she's losing stool, urine, all this stuff. So she's storing that away in a bucket. And when, after a few days of fasting, she loses her beauty, he says, my God, you were so beautiful. You need to take some food. She says, my beauty is over there in that bucket. Okay. This is the only thing she lost after 3 days of fasting. So it must be in the bucket. But that's basically what our bodies are made of. And yet, by the presence of the soul, it is only the soul's presence that the bodies can appear to have what we would call beauty. And that soul, what is it? It is the breath of God. Krishna's breath, that's what the soul is. It was originally breathed into Brahma's body. Now, Brahma is big, right? But if you're going to put every single soul into a body, it's got to be pretty big. Every single soul that would come into this universe. So that's why they have to be microscopic. Tiny little things. Because there's a lot of them. And as many of them as manifested on this planet, we have access to it now by the internet, so we can preach to all of them. We can preach to everybody. Right. Hopefully we can get this message out more so on the internet. I see in the views, and it says how many views. We're getting 200, 300, 400, 500 views. I just got downloaded yesterday a source of audiences. And it's a page this long. Every single one, a different website that we can get audience from. And I'm going to hook that up. So we'll get some more audience. John, any other, does that answer your question? That it is constantly changing, even though it is the external energy of Krishna. The question was, if everything is pure coming from Krishna, then how do we have impurities right in the material world? And two, what I left out was the fact that we do have within our consciousness what we call free will. I have for many years now questioned whether it is actually free will, if it is in fact dominated by the senses of the body. Because then we become servants to what the senses of the body, which are material, have created with our minds as that which we believe we need. And so immediately when we think of something we think we need, it puts us in a state of lacking something, isn't it? How are we lacking if Krishna is with us? Like contrary things. So the soul itself, just being in this material world, is a contradictory state of existence when you think about it. Temporary place for an eternal substance. That's weird, isn't it?
Extreme.
Yeah. And temporary time for it to be where it is. But that's what we are. And it is by this will that we have to realize we are responsible for having put ourselves into this situation. Are we smart or what? We think we are at a time. And we think it's by our own doing that we come to this part too. Krishna's the one who's doing all this. Krishna's the one who's the merciful one, giving us mercy and giving us the opportunity to get back. Even though we chose to leave, we're here because we chose to come away. We've moved away from Krishna. And yet he's never going to leave us, never going to give us a way where there won't be a way back. Even for those who go to hell, just think about how bad that is. If there's a way back. Any other comments, questions, realization, John? Shrimadbhagavatam.